This is a demonstration of the graphics tool module's object states in OpenBMCS's OpenManagement platform. One of the things also to note is that this is actually running inside of Ubuntu, which is a Linux distribution, just to show you as well that we are actually running on different operating systems. Okay, so if we go into our object demo, we have edit mode on. When we right click, we've got a whole heap of different actions and different objects. So these first two are already set up with temperature properties and with percentage properties. So if I put on the temperature label, when we click on the right hand side, you can see this red marking around the outside of the link object. If I click on that, you'll notice that we've already got a suffix set up, a precision and a scale factor. So this is for any standard object. So if I go in and we access that unit, go to the air handler, go to output, I don't have to set up anything down the bottom. So I can just simply save, and now we've got our object. So if I do the same with percentage, and we're just going to use the same object just to make it quite simple. Again, we've got that same red object, red border around the outside of it. So choose the same controller and the same output. You'll see that even though they're the same values, they've got obviously a different look and feel for temperature and percentage. So we can obviously do the same with just a normal label. So at the moment you can see that I can add text in there and the text appears. This is because it's in edit mode. So there's also a default mode which you can see everything, most other things are in, and that is basically to define that they're actually defined by CSS. This basically makes it easy to do global edits as opposed to doing edits directly on the object. So in this case we want to add a link to the object. So we click on that, click the object, so we go to the same point that we went to last time, and we tick analog output. So we go next. So you can see now that we've got no prefix and no suffix. So if I decide I'm going to make that a percentage, now you can see that that's identical to that, and they are exactly the same point. The only difference is that because it's a percentage point, I can actually define percentages differently. So inside the CSS, when I go down, you can see label and percentage. So if I actually go, just grab that one rather than writing it myself. And just for instance, we want to go rather than our border width being 1, in percentage types, we're going to make our border 2. Okay, so you can see that there's a difference there. So obviously you can't do that with this object because it's just the standard label. So you would have to define label, which means that all labels will be like that. So this just gives you multiple options. In the future we'll be enabling you to actually define your own, so that you can then come up with different options here as well. Okay, now back to this. So now you'll notice that in our label object, because we've added that link, we now get a fourth button, which is our delete data. So if we click on that, it then goes back to just normal data. One of the other things that we've also got, so if for instance we put on let's put on a temperature, and we're actually going to make that a set point, and we're going to use that direct point to actually change the set point. So if we go in, let's choose a different controller. And we're going to choose set point. Output. Next. Okay, so we've already got all that stuff set up, but I'm going to copy that. And the reason why I'm going to copy it is so that we can actually use it for the actual set side. So save that. You can see currently it's set to 0. So if we go down the bottom, sorry, we don't actually have it in that. Just got to use a standard label. So when we've got the temperature labels and the percentage labels, we don't actually define an ability to actually have actions on them. There's only a thing that we've put in for basic customs. So luckily I've copied that already, so just put a 1 in there, save. So that's going to come up with exactly the same thing anyway. We go down to our on click event. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. So we just move through set point, and we're going to go out. Oh, wrong one. So we're going to do a set float. Demo, set point. Now, one of the things that our system does is actually allow you to set the direct point as opposed to setting an arbitrary point like set, which doesn't give you the good feedback that an output does. So, especially when you're using toggling and everything like that, you actually want to use the actual point. So a set value doesn't actually give you a return value. It will always be a void or a null value. So we want to actually select the output in this instance. So we go next, and our suffix is going to be degrees C. Okay, so now we save that. We're going to go into normal mode. Now when we click on the object, you can see our degrees C, and we're going to put 23.5. So now when we save it, you can see 23.5 in the actual block. So there's multiple different ones that we can obviously use as we move through. So, and any object can actually be defined the same way. So if we go in, any action can be defined the same way. So you can see that we've got a set bool, so that'll pop up the same menu item. So if we go in, choose, I'm not sure whether we do actually have inside demo the ability to do that, but let's have a look. So I think we've got direct, so let's use that one. Okay, so on and off. So when we choose that object, save, that now gives us a drop down for true and false. So let's try a different one. So that's obviously the same with setting an int as well, but one of the nice things is using toggle points. So if we actually toggle that same point, so we go into loop, direct, next. Okay, and we're going to actually make this point live so that we can see it toggle. Next. command choices allows us this one, so go on and off. Save that. So now we can click on the actual object and it will allow us to toggle it on and off. Okay. Now obviously you don't have to have it on the object. Depending on how you want to set up your graphics, you can put it on a different object and have it sitting beside it, have it as a nice little switch that looks like it's going on and off, however you want to do it. Okay, so let's go for a few more. So obviously we can do the same with schedule. So you would have seen this in the general demonstration, so it only comes up with obviously the schedule objects. So now that we've got the schedule object, we can click on that and up comes the schedule. So we can move that around, we can right click and apply all weekdays, and it applies all weekdays, or we can go apply all. We can even go copy day and paste day. So this allows us to do basically anything that you want to be able to do with a schedule, nice and easy. So we save that and close. So you can obviously do the same with any other points, but one of the other things that is quite nice is if we go into, edit mode first. Okay, so we delete that. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Okay, so just say, even though you've got your menu on the left hand side here, you want to be able to link between different pages. So this is going to work really well when we start to demonstrate how the touchscreen works, because the touchscreen can actually remove this, which allows a little bit nicer look and feel when it comes to a touchscreen. So if we select page, what that's actually now doing is going, okay, well, which page do you want to go to? So we're going to want to go to the demo page. So we click choose. So now when I go and click on that page, what it's doing is taking me directly to the page that we selected. So that's a nice little part to actually allow you to move from page to page. For instance, if you've got an air handler with multi-face and bypass, and it's not going to fit on the page, you can actually just have a little arrow, click on that, it's going to take you to that page. So it allows you to do all those little things that allows for that flexibility. Okay, so let's go back into edit mode and show you one other nice little thing. I don't know what I just did then. Intriguing. Let's add another object. Okay, so the incrementer is quite an interesting little point. So what we can do here is if we go and grab that same set point that we've used, again grab out, and it's very important that it's the out for this incrementer because we need to know the value that we're incrementing. Okay, so it's a float type and we're going to increment it by 0.5. Okay, so an incrementer is also a decrementer. So if I choose that, and we're just going to call that plus, and we're going to grab another label, call that minus. What I might also do is go in, make it 20 sounds good enough to me. So they're a little bit bigger, and we might even change the width so that they're a box. So that looks more like a incrementer and decrementer. So let's do that. Just a little bit. Okay, so we go in, again use incrementer, demo, set point, and out again. Okay, this time we're going to go minus 0.5 and again set it to float. So now save on. So now, rather than clicking on this and physically typing in our value, we can actually just use these buttons to increment and decrement the value. Works a lot better on a touchscreen, obviously. So that's a demonstration of all the different live objects and the different property states of all the different objects. Thank you very much for watching this video.